It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That is the bonus track from the London live release, which was released almost 2 years ago.
Right.
A new tune from London, and I guess Nader and the boys are working on a new disc.
About time, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But I see that Nader has been very, very busy, not only with his solo performances, but I see, he's had quite a few gigs lined up for the band London.
Yeah, he's active again. Very active.
He's very active. So good for him.
Yeah, except I don't like him calling me a faggot in that promo. But other than that,
that was when you guys were going back and forth about the whole haircutting thing.
Yeah, that's fine. I think it's funny.
Yeah, it is funny, but I don't think Nader does that anymore.
Doesn't cut hair anymore?
I don't think so.
He was good at it, though, wasn't he?
As far as I know, he was. A former gal that I was hanging out with, he cut her hair.
Right.
He worked in a very upper scale salon in Orange County.
Yeah.
But since he's been back doing the whole London thing and whatnot, I think that's pretty much his main focus.
Well, once that dries up, at least he's got faggotry to go back to.
True, absolutely.
So good on him.
Absolutely. All right. I ran across this story here that kind of made me laugh.
Okay.
Most everything that I read these days, regardless of the subject material, makes me laugh because we live in such a stupid world these days.
It is a pretty fucked up time. That's for sure.
Everything's just fucked up.
Yep.
Anything from politics to just real world events to neighborhood shootings to everything just makes me laugh.
Oh, come on. Neighborhood shootings are just hilarious.
They are. They make me laugh. You know why? Because it's just stupid people doing stupid shit. And it's just like, you know what? One more idiot off the planet.
Exactly. Thinning the herd one dick at a time.
That's the way that I look at it. And I don't know if you've seen the latest stats in the Chicagoland area. I
have not. I figure you'll keep me apprised to the mass murder going on in that city.
Well, we had a warm day. What was it, last week, I think.
Okay.
And there were, I think there was 24 shootings over a 20-hour period. I mean, it was just ridiculous.
It's bad that we laugh at it, but we're laughing at it, because the people are so fucking stupid. Yeah, I can't imagine how you even stay there.
Well, believe me, that if I could get away, I would pack it up and be gone in a minute.
I mean, especially now, it's not coming. I mean, you're still a decent enough distance away to keep away from that shit.
Well,
right?
For me, where I live, yes. Where I work, I'm literally 3 miles from it.
Right. Do you ever hear gunshots?
All day long. All I hear is sirens up and down the road. Police and ambulances up and down the road all day.
Good God.
Every day.
That is fucking nuts.
I can hear the sirens all day long.
Right. And then do you go outside and applaud? Another dead one.
Yeah. Well, they're usually, heading up to a different part of the neighborhood, but regardless of that, it's pretty frequent. It's got to the point to where you almost ignore the sirens anymore. Right.
Ugh, that's just and yeah, you are definitely right in the middle of the shit where you are.
Mm-hmm.
That place. Oof, that was not the most pleasant ride of my life going there. Ugh. Anyway, so 24 in 20 hours?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, they're only knocking them off at 50% though, because there was only 9 deaths out of those 24 shootings.
Man, they better get some gun ranges built so that these fucking criminals can be better shots.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, since we talked about Netflix, I don't know if you saw it, but it's like a 13-part episode. It's called Underworld Inc.
I've seen it listed, but I have not watched it.
I watched those episodes this week, and Chicago is prominently featured in 2 of the episodes. Each episode features a specific underworld thing. Okay. Like one is prostitution.
Okay.
That one episode is specifically about prostitution only.
With video?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's how they're trying to combat prostitution and the stings and, all this other stuff. But how much, they talk about how much money it brings in, how these pimps operate,
right?
How the law enforcement is trying to crack down.
Right.
It's the whole story there. And they talk to actual pimps and whatnot and understand their MO
And they're well-educated guys, I'm assuming.
Well, yeah, it's like, get back to work, ho. Get up in there and get your money, bitch. That kind of stuff.
I'm about to give you the backhand.
Yeah. Then another episode was specifically on bootlegging.
Bootlegging what?
Booze.
The old days?
Yeah. Well, no, there's actually still a big bootleg market, especially in the South.
Really? What are they bootlegging?
They're bootlegging whiskey, moonshine.
Name brand or just
they're still distilling it and selling it.
But are they selling it as like fake Jack Daniels, or are they just selling it as like Bob's Still fucking
bootleg whiskey?
Okay. All right.
And obviously the two concerns there is the safety aspect because and I don't know, I never knew much about the whole bootlegging whiskey thing.
Sure.
But they have to take off what they call the heads. The very first dribbles of distilled alcohol is like poison.
It's formaldehyde, right?
It's ethanol.
Yeah.
So they got to make sure that that's taken off first, and then what comes after that is, the good stuff.
Right. Well, dude, when I was in Korea, and we'll come back to this. When I was in Korea, we used to drink this stuff called soju, and that was like their big drink. And the thing back then, this was in the mid to late 80s, and it really wasn't regulated too well. And as a rule, it would come in these little bottles. You buy a case of this shit for like $3. And sometimes you would drink one bottle of this stuff and you would just be fucked up. I mean, you would be like, wake up the next morning and not know how you got there.
Right.
And then other times you could drink 10 bottles and not even get a buzz.
Sure.
So shit was completely unregulated.
Yeah, right.
But the beginning of it, the top of the bottle was always formaldehyde.
Mm-hmm.
So as a rule, the first thing that you did whenever you opened a bottle of soju was you open it and you just kind of flick the bottle to throw out the formaldehyde off the top, and then you would drink it.
Sure.
And dude, let me just tell you, we used to drink the shit out of that soju because it was so cheap.
Right.
But anyway, as you were saying,
that's interesting that it was so cheap and it was also called soju.
Yeah, it was soju.
Exactly.
Hitler would never drink that stuff.
No. So the next, like one of the episodes was about the bootlegging.
Right.
It's down south mostly, and mostly in the Appalachians, like in, your typical places like Kentucky and Missouri, Mississippi and down there, and they still have the law enforcement are all still out there looking for illegal stills and whatnot.
Right.
And of course, as with anything, these bootleggers have become very clever in how they transport this stuff.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So this one bootlegger was showing how he's got special made bottles that fit into a case of oil. Like you have, those plastic oil bottles, with motor oil. Mm-hmm. Well, the bottles go into the slots in a case of oil.
Right.
But then he's got fake oil tops that he puts on top of the bottles to make it look like a case of oil. Like if you open up the top, it looks like a case of oil, you don't even think anything of it,
Right.
And, they basically transport and sell this stuff everywhere.
Right.
Down there. And of course, the big thing is, not only from the safety aspect, but of course the government isn't getting their cut of taxation.
And that's the only thing the government gives a shit about.
More or less. Yeah. So that, that was an episode. And then the knockoff market, they featured a little town south of you in Ohio, down near Salem, Ohio.
Okay.
Where they have this big flea market down there.
All right.
And they were showing all these knockoff brands coming in from China.
Right, like Strolex instead of Rolex.
Well, no, see, here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not illegal to sell a knockoff. It's illegal to sell a knockoff that's marked as the real thing.
So you can't say it's a Reebok shoe when it's a fucking Fleabok or whatever.
Yeah, well, the thing is that these knockoffs are coming from China, mostly China and India, and they are actually marked Rolex, Louis Vuitton, Coach,
shit, yeah,
whatever, and that's where the illegality comes from.
Dude, when I came back again from Korea, I had 50 pairs of shoes that were, I had 50 pairs of Jordans, Air Jordans, and they were all knockoffs, but I had those, and I had at least 5 alleged Rolexes, and, because you could buy them on the street for like $10.
Sure.
So I bought shit tons of them.
Yeah.
I gave them away as gifts.
Yeah.
It's me giving you a Rolex, me, this fucking 20-year-old douchebag, thinking I was a roller, giving my dad a fucking Rolex like he wouldn't know it was fake.
Sure. So they showed this flea market, and I looked it up. I looked it up on the internet. And here's the thing: what I like about these documentaries, I'd like to know how they film these things, because they filmed the actual bust. And I went on the internet and I read, and sure as shit, there's an article on the internet about the bust that they made at this flea market.
Okay.
And they collected what would have been a street value of $500 million of knockoff products.
Okay.
And they were showing how all these knockoff products come into the States, but they're not marked.
Right.
Or if they are marked, the marking is hidden until they peel away something.
Okay.
Like it's covered with like a tape or
something,
or like Ugg boots. Those ugly boots that chicks wear, those ugly furry boots.
Yeah.
Well, they were showing how these boots come in and they look like Uggs. Well, the marking is on the sole.
Right.
So what they do is they put a false sole over top of the marked sole.
Okay.
And so when you look at them, there's no marking that says Ugg on it.
Yeah, it just looks like some plain shoe.
Yeah, but then you peel off the bottom of the sole, and there's the Ugg marking and the tread design and everything.
Then you sell that $1.50 pair of shoes for $200.
Exactly.
Right.
So there was an episode on that.
Okay.
Well, one of the ones that was featured, the Chicago area, and leads a lot to this gang violence and all the shootings that go on here, is a majority of the shootings and the gang violence that takes place here in Chicago obviously has to do with money and drugs.
Okay.
And a majority of the money and the drugs problems that happen here in Chicago are fueled by the Mexican cartels.
Really?
Yeah. So Chicago being a Midwest hub, and all these interstates come running in through here, 90, 94, 80,
right.
57, 55, all these interstates come in here. All of the money from the East Coast and from the South, like Indianapolis and Columbus and Cleveland and Buffalo and, St. Louis and, all these Midwest cities, all of the money that's going to the cartels is brought into Chicago, and it's all gathered here.
Okay.
And then they hire some trucker who works for the cartel, and he transports all that dirty money to Houston.
Okay.
So remember a couple years ago, I told you that I had to go to a trade show in Dallas.
Right, and they stopped you.
They stopped me. Right. Now I understand why, because this Underworld Inc. was showing that Interstate 57 and 55, which were the interstates I was traveling, they watch for cars and trucks and whatnot coming out of Illinois or Chicago. And the rental car that I had Illinois plates on it.
Right.
So I was all the way down in Arkansas and Texas with Illinois plates, and I got stopped twice in a week.
Sure.
For no apparent reason.
Oh, yeah. Of course, because you look like a drug dealer.
Well, again, and then they asked me, what are you doing? Where are you going? How come you're driving? How come your boss didn't fly you? Why are you, you're kind of a long way from home. What are you doing down here? That kind of stuff.
Rolled your window up and fucking said, "Fuck you, pal."
Yeah, right. So apparently all this money and all this drugs and stuff all get filtered through Chicago.
Okay.
And goes to Houston.
Right.
And then they basically package it down in Houston, and then they get it across the border to Mexico.
Okay.
I mean, it's just crazy.
Right.
So a lot of the gun violence that happens here in Chicago and all the gang violence is fueled by the Mexican cartels.
Okay. Crazy.
It is. It is crazy. So, and then of course, being that Chicago is a big train hub, there's a lot of thefts off the railroad.
Wow.
So they were showcasing these guys who basically just go to these rail yards and just break into these boxcars and just grab whatever they can get.
Dude, this shit sounds like it's so 1965.
It is.
Doesn't it? I mean, it sounds like it honestly sounds like a scene from Goodfellas.
It more or less is.
It's crazy.
Only the hue of the gangster is a little darker than Goodfellas.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, what do you mean by that?
I'm just saying that it's a different breed of animal.
The hue of the gangster, huh?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Is that one of them?
Yeah, I think that's one of them. That's one in training.
God damn it. Smokes.
Yep. That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
So if you have not seen it, it's on Netflix. It's called Underworld Inc.
All right, I'll have to check it out.
And it is really good. I think there's 13 episodes. And like I said, each episode is specific on a thing.
Okay.
And being that, what I do, for my normal job.
Right. A male prostitute.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Out in California, the stolen car market out there is just ridiculous.
Because they all drive nice cars.
Yeah. And they concentrate on the Silicon Valley area where, the people in the tech industry.
Right. Bunch of rich dorks.
Yeah. So they're all buying BMWs and Range Rovers and all this and that. And so these car thieves,
right,
key in, and they are so sophisticated, dude. They've got all these electronics and things.
Right.
That they break into these cars with these electronics. And you know how your newer cars, they have like the chip in the key?
Mine's like that.
Yeah. They have these handheld electronic things that to get from like China.
Right.
And they plug it into your system and they reprogram the electronic chip in the key, and they have a key that fits that car, and then they program that car to accept that key with that chip that they have, and then just start it up and drive it off.
See you later. Bye-bye.
And guess where that car goes immediately? You know why they can't find them?
Because they chop them up.
No.
Where do they ship it?
They go right into a shipping container.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, it goes right into a shipping container, and within 17 days, it's over in West Africa or Ghana.
Nice.
There's a big demand over there for high-end cars.
Really?
And any car that comes into the country as an import gets a $30,000 tax on it.
Wow.
So if a legitimate buyer were to buy a car, say from like Mercedes or something,
right,
and it came from Germany or the U.S. or wherever it is that they bought it, and they bought a Mercedes for say $80,000,
right,
there would be a $30,000 tax on top of that to bring it into Ghana or West Africa. So what they do is these affluent people have people here in the States.
Yeah.
And they say, hey, I want a Range Rover. I want a Range Rover, blah, blah, blah. They'll pay one of these carjackers $10,000 to go find that car.
Okay.
So they'll pay $10,000 to the carjacker, and then they'll pay that $30,000 import tax, and then they get a Range Rover for $40,000.
Okay. Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of paying $120,000 with the tax, they're only paying $40,000.
Right. Wow.
So it's worth it to them to pay the carjacker in the States to cherry pick a car for them. off the street, put it in a container, and ship it over there.
Are those guys hiring? That seems like a pretty good point.
I mean, this is a very in-depth program to see how all this works, but it's just like, holy shit.
It just seems like all you'd need is one a week for 2 years, and you'd be fucking retired.
Right.
Seems pretty good money to me.
So they were they basically, talk to some of these actual carjackers and whatnot, and they might even do a ride along or, have a camera with it or whatever.
Hey, you did a ride along with the carjackers?
Yeah, these carjackers wear like bandanas around their face and stuff. And, they sometimes use that vocal harmonizer.
Right.
Like, I'll be scoping out this car and we'll be following it,
And how do they get around not having to turn that over to
I don't know the answer. That's the whole thing. I don't know how they film this stuff.
That's fucking nuts.
Yeah. But it is a really good each episode is like 40 minutes.
All right, I'll have to check that out.
So I was just enthralled by, the fact that these people are doing that. Look at that from Nathan.
Jesus.
But good series though.
Oh, I'll have to check it out. Is that two of the carjackers?
Yeah, that's two of the carjackers.
Yep. Actual footage.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the funny thing is that this one truck driver out of Chicago who was taking some of the money to be laundered to Houston, he basically came right through near where I live.
Oh, great.
They show him on the interstate not far from here.
And you're like, hey, there's my house.
Yeah, more or less. And they showed that the law enforcement are looking for certain things.
Okay.
And he basically would come this direction first and go south rather than go down Interstate 57 or 55 directly out of Chicago.
Right.
So he'll come, east, then drop south, and then cut back and go west.
Okay.
Just to stay out of the fray.
Right. Well, I mean, for that kind of money, I guess you do, you do sacrifice time. That's really what they're doing. They're just sacrificing time by driving around.
Sure.
It's crazy.
Yep. So anybody who has an interest in that kind of thing, I highly recommend it. It's on Netflix. It's called Underworld Inc.
Okay.
Good stuff.
That's cool.